Welcome to another Fireside Chat. Today we are going to be speaking about Chapter 1, Silence, What We Avoid is What We Need. So the book jumps straight in, pretty much. So what does silence give us? You may ponder. The most important thing.
Put your teeth back in.
Yeah, where are my teeth? I think I forgot something in the morning.
Yeah, I forgot something.
Yeah. Oh, they're still in the glass. The most important thing silence enables us to do is become aware of our thoughts and their processes. That's a tricky one because the thoughts and processes, we tend to avoid it, or we combat them like we compete, or like there's an arm wrestle going on within the thoughts. Like you're trying to convince yourself, or because thoughts create feelings and create reactions within the body, chemical reactions on varying degrees, of course. So there's often we distract ourselves from our thinking, mundane thoughts or negative thoughts or whatever else is going on at different times. So we tend to try and drown out the noise, the mind chatter. And there's no need to arm wrestle within the mind. And it feels like there is a reason. It feels like that's something that you must do for your own sanity. But a great way to start is to question if you know for sure, absolutely, that thought's real. Without questioning, you'll go, yeah, of course. Or if it's about another person, you might think, yeah, it's real. They did this for this reason because they really want to hurt me. I truly believe anyone that still has a soul left doesn't want to hurt anyone at all. It's just if someone's not considering you, if someone's behaving a certain way, and it's not for the benefit of everyone, it's only because they're suffering and lost in their own thoughts. So when the mind tries to justify a situation or blaming another or whatever else is going on, to expand to a more holistic view, you must understand there's other mechanisms in play, other things going on that you may not be aware of for another person to be how they are, as with yourself. And when you're feeling emotional, or if you're not sitting well in yourself, or if you feel like you're not enough or you're insecure, if you're challenged in certain ways, you may behave in a particular way to defend yourself, or in other words, to seek approval from another. So there's so many things at play, and for the mind to say, yeah, no, this is exactly how it is, and it's someone else's fault that I'm thinking this or feeling that, it's not like that. It feels like that, but it's never like that. No one can actually control how you think and feel. In the end, no one really can. People can influence you, but you choose to think and feel what you like. And this is separate from physical pain, of course, or abuse in those areas. To become aware of your thoughts and their patterns, I've done a number of Vipassana retreats, and I'd like to hold some retreats to help others in this area at some point. And Vipassana retreats, the traditional style of Vipassana, is meditating for 10 hours a day, 10 days in a row, and it's a silent retreat. They did these types of meditations or retreats in jails, in hardcore jails. I saw videos in the early 2000s. And this was maybe the 1970s, 80s, or somewhere there. And they had hardcore prison inmates that were crying, and they were opening up. And it was amazing. I wouldn't have, it's hard to fathom some of the change these people went through, because I saw a video where a hardened criminal killed his family's son. And through doing Vipassana, he reached out to the parents and apologized, and seemed to have gone through profound change, because this family came and visited him in jail, and they formed a bond. And they even said in this video, they said, he took our son, he's now our son. So he's sort of replacing our son in a sense, and they loved each other. It's hard to imagine, and you don't realize the longer you spend in silence, the more aware of your thoughts you may become, or you do become. There's a pattern of, especially when one is suffering, there is a cycle. Some people might react in a family situation once a week, or have every few days or every 6 weeks. There's a pattern that tends to happen, and then you explode, and then you calm a bit, and then that pattern or that spring tends to get wound up again. over a period. The reason this pattern or cycle continues is because nothing's actually worked through. It's just basically a vent. So through Vipassana retreats, which intensifies the silence or just silence in itself, you can become aware. If you don't play in the whole maya, the whole illusion of thoughts, you become aware of the patterns or cycles in which your mind can actually have you and it can control you. And if you're suffering, this suffering will continue, and the mind without awareness will maintain itself, which not only maintains itself, it actually intensifies the suffering over a period because everything just gets dumped on top of each other. So silence is one of the fastest ways to discover the patterns of your thoughts and what you think and how you think and why you think in certain ways. Silence is what most people avoid. Absolutely. It gives you great insight. So I really feel silence is a great thing, but when it comes to nurturing, which is, I really don't talk about that just at this point. This is just the very start of chapter 1.
Mm.
But nurturing, I feel spending time in silence and becoming aware of your thoughts and their patterns and processes in how you fall into suffering, that sort of thing. This can become revealed. So it's great to do these sort of things and spend time in silence. And if you're going to work, sometimes just don't listen to music if you're in the car and just see where your thoughts go.
I was just thinking that because going straight to a Vipassana is a huge leap for most people. So I think maybe just become aware of how you're drowning out your thoughts first and start turning off your TV, turn off the radio, turn off the music, and just start small, even if it's just because I'm sure it'd be confronting for a lot of people. So maybe start for 15 minutes a day or something.
Yeah, good point. I'm by no means recommending Vipassana for people that are avoiding their thoughts and for the normal person in a sense.
Yeah.
That's just an extreme example.
Yeah.
And through experience myself doing Vipassana retreats, every time I came home, I thought different. It's like when the mind becomes, or the thought patterns become revealed, then it'll try and scramble for another way to distract or distort potential realities. So it's like it operates and carries on as if it rules and it's not threatened at all. And as soon as you spend time in silence, it starts becoming threatened.
Yeah.
And then all sorts of things start coming up, and then it'll try and find a new way to distract and have you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's profound. It's absolutely profound. When I was mentioning one of the other chats that when I was in India and I sat in an ashram and for my first satsang, and my mind was just swearing, cursing, just going off. And a lot of people may have thought, I've got to get out of here. This is, I can't do this. I've got to be somewhere else. Like clearly it's not, I'm not meant to be here. But my mind and my competitiveness and seeking for, I had to have understanding. I was over suffering, like the pain and the anger that came up within me. Instead of thinking I must run, I just felt this is exactly where I need to be, and I sat there and endured it, and just thought, no, I have to work through this, and like peeling back layers of onions, literally. It's
But even when you're sitting there, your mind will, if you're trying to, it will try to distract you with thoughts. So you got to be aware that very often you go back into your thought pattern, even though you're sitting meditating, your mind will often drag you out of that and into certain usual thought patterns and just bring yourself back. Or like you've said many times, just focus on your breath or something.
Yeah.
Or
that's a process of meditation where you focus on your breath, and then before you know it, you're distracted and you're going off in thoughts, and you don't even realize the transition from emptiness or nothingness to going down the rabbit hole of a thought. And then you go, that's right. I was meant to be watching my thoughts. And then you come back to your thoughts, and then the mind will have you again. It's so deceptive.
Yeah.
The thoughts. It is amazing. But one will fall victim to their thoughts until they start losing interest in seeing through your thoughts. So you can't be hard on yourself. It's another entrapment, being hard on yourself or falling into your thoughts. I'm a failure. It's like that's another trap. You will always fall into your thoughts. It's part of the process. You're not failing at all. You're actually going through the process of unraveling and discovering more of yourself. So a great way is to write down. I've mentioned this a number of times. Write down your thoughts and see through the more simple thoughts, the ones that you're not so attached to. They're the easiest ones initially to see through. But it's interesting. I remember I did this ages ago, where I thought, and I realized, like, I'd listen to a song, I put a song on that I really like. I think, oh yeah, and I think this is a great thing too. If you have silence, this is what I used to like to do. You have your silence, but then listen to music that picks you up, that lifts you up. And some music. If I was doing weight training in the past, I'd listen to angry music, because you channel that anger. And there's nothing wrong with channeling anger if it's for a good thing, for a good cause or reason or so. It's not to harm others or anything like that. But if you have a sense of silence and you can start unraveling and discovering the patterns or negative cycles of your thoughts, I'd recommend doing some of that. And then also listening to music that's uplifting, empowering, anything that makes you feel good about yourself, that generates nice feelings or a sense of hope. I became addicted to angelic sort of music for a while before I went through profound change and anything from the heart. And I listened to Krishna Das actually when I was years ago, before I went to India. I discovered Krishna Das, and I met him a few times in India. This is many years ago, and I'm sure he's the same. He was such a down-to-earth guy, such a great guy, and he just sings from his heart. And it's all bhajans, and a lot of it's Indian, like ceremonial type music that he sings. But it really, for me, it just feeds the soul, and you just fall into your heart. Just powerful stuff. Has a powerful voice. So Krishna Das, and even Donna DeLory. There's a lot of amazing singers that sing from the heart. And for me, anything that is uplifting is anything that's from the heart. Not to say that there isn't a time to listen to things to, harness that anger or get in touch with how you're feeling. That might be some heavy metal. It could be anything. It could be country music. It could be all sorts, but don't fall into music that gets you in touch with how you're feeling. If that's sadness all the time, we need to counter the negativity with things that's up, or music or sounds or things that are uplifting, or that opens our minds to something more. I feel that's absolutely key. Otherwise, we succumb to the negative cycles and patterns of our thoughts, and without awareness, they will have us in the end. From a healing point of view, spiritual healing, energetic healing, the thoughts greatly impact how your body flows, and knots and balls that you feel within your like solar plexus or within your gut, or certain things you hold on to. It's fully reflective on how you think. So it's really easy. Yeah.
So can I just for anyone that's just starting out with this sort of thing, where should they start? What are the first questions they should question their thoughts? Is it like I just want to really start at the foundation for people to start off at. Like, if a thought comes up, should they say, is this a good thought, or is this for my betterment, or is this a detrimental thought? Or where should they start by questioning the thoughts? Because it's something you bring up a lot. I'm just thinking at the very, very foundation. Where do they start?
Well, the first thing I do, because if we suffer from, like many people suffer from anxiety or those sort of traits, something similar to varying degrees of anxiousness and that sort of thing. So I feel the first thing we must do, if we notice we're a little bit uptight or we're feeling a bit negative, is to take a few deep breaths. That's the first thing I would always do. It's like it centers and grounds you more so. And it will taking deep breaths naturally calms the system, the body. Like, you can't not calm when you take deep breaths. So it's a physical thing we can do that creates change within our psyche and within our body. If our body calms, then our psyche and our attitude calm to some degree. So a great place to start is, if we're having a great time and enjoying our life and we're with friends, don't question it, go with it. This process needs to begin, especially when you're feeling down or negative or depressed or insecure. So the questions, the thoughts ultimately then need to be challenged and questioned are the ones that create suffering. So any negativity, anything like that, these are the thoughts we must start with and challenge and question to see if they're actually real. And this isn't an easy thing to start with, but we must, what I'd recommend is if someone's not being nice to us, or if we're just having certain thoughts, or we feel like no one values or sees us, it's a matter of writing. Let's say you write down an experience or something that you had where someone's not been nice, or let's say at work or at school where people have bonded against you, or you feel like they're bonding together and excluding you. So one might think, it's because of me. It's, what have I done? Or you feel like you're left out and unvalued. And for this to impact you, it typically, because people will follow, let's say everyone's into, certain people are into sport or into certain passion or into weightlifting or into training or into certain topics. People will bond together depending on what's being done. So even within a group, some people might bond together, that go and have coffee together, then part of that group might enjoy sports. They'll do sports with other people. So it's natural for people you're not always going to be included in every situation. That's just how it is. And just to expand that understanding can take pressure off. And often with work, and if there's a number of people that are insecure, then they may bond together for security. And even if they're not for a promotion or to try and get in favor with the boss and that sort of thing. So there's all these, and if someone's doing that, then they may be doing it not because it's actually what they truly feel. It's because they don't want to be in your shoes. They don't want to be picked on. People's character always becomes revealed. And as you become more attuned and take deep breaths and center yourself, start questioning your thoughts, you can start realizing and seeing and observing these people and processes in others far more easily. So then you go, well, okay, they have some issues here. You don't automatically go to, what's wrong with me? And there's something to remember that pretty much 99.99% of all our suffering is related to us as a child growing up and not feeling or given what we need, not feeling valued enough, put aside, cast aside, or taken for granted. And this is our childhood stuff. So when we're ostracized from a group, it brings up any unresolved issues of when we were a child. And it brings back those feelings of not being worthy, not being valued, not being enough. And children feel this a lot. And I think it's worse today than I've ever seen in my lifetime, because with segregation, with wearing masks, all these things like no contact, like people need connection, they need contact. So it's worse today because people feel ostracized, they feel pushed aside. And it's just, the mental burdens on people is just, it's not fair in a sense, So this topic is more paramount now, more important now than ever. So question those thoughts that create suffering within you. Don't blindly believe them at all. And we must question them, even if we can't see through them initially. We must question them. We have to just resist the urge to fall into victim space. I truly feel, write down those thoughts and as much of the situation as you can, what's impacting you. And then you can write down what you know for sure, and then write down the assumptions that you're falling into. Oh, they don't like me for this reason, or they don't like me there. Because no one chooses to not like anyone. They're just often they just choose a side that's winning because they don't want to be ostracized. They don't want to be in your shoes. If you're put off on the side, they don't want to be in your shoes, and they'll go along with things, even if it's unjustly. So that shows, it doesn't show a lack of your character. It actually reveals a lack of their character for bonding unethically against you for no reason, seemingly. If this impacts you and you sort of friends with some of those people, that you can ask them why. Can you tell me why? And then you can validate. So, and I also, anyone that listens into the podcast, reach out to me and or send a message and say, look, I'm there's some things here that I'm getting stuck in. By all means, like I don't mind at all. Like my passion is unraveling thoughts and feelings, and I can ask questions that most likely you wouldn't even think about potentially, because you have to train yourself. It's like when I had issues when I was young, I sought approval from women because there was times where my dad was busy doing other things. So I felt on some level I became the man of the home. So my sister and my mum, I looked to them for approval for being the man of the house, so to speak. And they said, oh, you're the man of the house. So now, or, while dad's not home, whatever. And so it developed a pattern for me where I'd look to women, because it was what happened from age 14, for approval on whether I was doing a good job or not. And then that built resentment within me because I'd be conforming to someone else's idea on how to behave and how to be a man. So I gave my power away, then I resented that person for it. So that created issues within relationships. And what I found was that if a woman challenged me, and this was for a number of years, I would get like mind fog. Like my mind would just shut down and I could not reason. So I understand it's hard it's really hard when you're caught in a cycle of suffering, because often the mind does shut down. You get mind fog or brain fog and you just can't rationalize. And it's like everything's just foggy. You can't really grab hold of anything. But making the choice to write things down and trying to see through the fog, as you squint in the fog, it slowly becomes clearer over time, and it does dissipate. So it's just matter. So it's like training yourself in a gym. You can't barely lift anything. So you start off with just the bar, and over a period of time, with commitment, you start lifting more and more weight. So it's like that in how far that your capacity to see enhances, and that brain fog, you can actually see through that and sift through it over a period of time. You train yourself to. So all these self-inquiries about training yourself to become more and more aware. And as you become more and more aware, you become more and more free, and life becomes more and more meaningful as well. So it's important to note that, I'm aware of brain fog. It's brain frog.
Brain frog. You got Kermit in there.
Yeah. Hopping all up. It hops all over the place, the thoughts, brain frog.
He's Kermit. He's playing.
So it's a matter of making a choice initially. And you're not going to, it's rare that you'll make a choice and you go, yeah, bang, I can just do it straight away. It's going to be hard, but it's about making that choice, initiating a choice, and then trying. It's like riding a bike. You're going to need training wheels initially. You feel like you can't go very far. You take the training wheels off and you might fall again. You go, and you might think I'm back to square one. You're not. You're just developing the next stage. You go through a pattern of resistance with all change. And, it's only when you have great insight or certain things will break away, you go bang, something will just fall off and you go, oh, wow. And you'll see that happens as well. But you have to begin the process of expanding and switching on your awareness to get out of autopilot. Autopilot is blindly falling into the patterns and processes of your thoughts and the cycles of your thinking, which you do the same thing over and over. And, we've all lived there, and that's no place to live as far as I'm concerned. That wasn't enough. And then if life challenges you and you fall victim to the processes, then it can bring about great suffering. But if you're not challenged and you're just doing your normal day-to-day thing, you can live there for quite a while and without going through any intense suffering. Life's not all about suffering, but when you are being challenged and you haven't really developed your awareness, then the wheels can fall off pretty quick. That's in my experience.
Yes.
Yeah, it's as you become aware, it creates a deeper place of understanding of yourself and therefore others. So you must understand yourself first, but to become aware and question thoughts and your thinking, you can directly get a sense of how other people think and feel, because it's very evident in their actions and their words. So it is evident if you take the filters off from your own seeing through awareness. So, and that's by questioning your thoughts. Even when you're driving, just, So I started mentioning that I'd be in the mood to listen to a song, and I'd be in the car, and then I'd start listening to it, and then about, 10 minutes or a few minutes had gone past, and went, hang on a minute, I wanted to listen to this song. And I remember this is a while ago, I used to do this. So my awareness was changing back then. I thought, I want to listen to that song, but I can only remember the first part of it. So then I listened to it again, put it back on, and it's like, and I'm determined. I'm going to stay present and hear the whole song, And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just more messed up than the average person, because I can get through a song no problem now and have for a while, but maybe other people can. But for me, it'd be like my mind was that active, and I used to be very analytical.
Yeah.
And I no, I want to listen to all that song, the whole song. I'm try again. So that's another little challenge you can do. Listen to a song and see if you're present for the whole song. And it's different. It's different if you're singing with the song, because you get lost in it. But I can do mantras and different things now, but I didn't sing even to myself back then. So I'd just be sitting there going, listening.
It's like reading a book too. I mean, how many times have you read a book, and then along the way your thoughts start drifting in a different direction, and you realize after a while, it's like, I have no idea what I've just been reading.
Yeah, exactly.
Or watching a movie as well. You get distracted.
Yep. There's no way that would happen with my book, though, because it really draws you in.
It's so captivating.
Yeah. So I challenge those out there to, if you get my book, to see if that does happen or not. And,
there's a challenge.
And if it does happen and you're not just kept drawn into my book, just don't comment.
To get your money back.
I didn't say that. So the chapter 1's very short, so it just goes to the point. It's only 2.5 pages, but it just gives you some interesting ideas that talk about the silence, and talks about the panic, fight or flight mode, fear, and how rationality goes out the window when you are fearing. And also in the chapter, I'm not going to tell you every paragraph, not that there's many in chapter 1, but as long as you blame another for how you're feeling, you are believing that you have no power to change. You're believing that you are the victim, that unless another changes their attitude, their ways, you cannot change. Luckily, this is absolutely not true. Here, I'm just going to name a few. There's not a lot of points here, but here are some simple understandings or tests to reflect on if you feel you deeply understand yourself and therefore others. So how many of these do you do or do you resonate with? Do you recommend people should follow in your exact footsteps to find what you have found? Do you interrupt others when they open to you to tell them that you know exactly what they mean and start telling your story? Do you interrupt when people open to you and tell them your ideas or what they should be doing? Do you tell them what everyone else should be doing? Are you jumping on board when they blame another? Do you justify your views to people, friends and family? Do you try to prove you're right and others are wrong? If you answered yes to any or all of these questions, then you haven't fully discovered your heart yet. You haven't seen deeply enough yet. I'm sort of paraphrasing some of these things, but when you truly discover the beautiful softness of your heart, it encompasses you, and you stop trying to force feed. You listen more intently. You nurture, you offer insights and understandings. You don't take over conversation where when someone is suffering, you offer appetizers in a sense. You don't like these things. People think, I'll do some of those things. It's a bit of a trap there. It sucks you in. It's like, I'll do that. And it's like, no, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So there's a few traps in here. They go, no, I do that. And they go, no, actually, I don't do that. I don't do that. So what happens is you start to realize past misunderstandings and struggles. This is when you start becoming really, really, really aware. You become compassionate to yourself and others. You will finally ask questions rather than giving all the answers in an attempt to convince oneself of being self-righteous. So instead of giving everyone all the answers, you start asking questions. That's a key thing. It's asking questions to get people to reflect. And a lot of people don't like that, but you don't need to pound them with questions question after question. You just need to ask. If someone's going in the wrong direction down a hill 100 miles an hour, and you go, yeah. You just go, do you think that's really that's really beneficial for yourself, for others. What will you gain out of that? In the end, what will they gain? Like, is it a lesson in it for them? Is it a lesson, a harsh one that will create suffering for them? How will you feel ultimately when they suffer? Initial reaction might be, yeah, great, because I'm suffering, so they'll get a sense of how I feel. But if they're, most of the time, if you're suffering, you create further suffering to others, then they will try and reciprocate that, and it just goes in a vicious cycle. So it's best to try and understand and pull out of that cycle yourself. We must not expect others to break the cycle before we do, because then we will always be the victim. And we'll tell ourselves that. So no one controls us. We tell ourselves that we're the victim if we're victims. So that mantra and that whole cycle with victim, it's not fair, this, or they have more, why this, why that. That's when you can start doing things that justify taking this or taking that, or being in a certain way. You start justifying your life and your actions that aren't in integrity with someone that's whole and in touch with themselves, in a sense. So we must not, in my view, justify wrongdoing, wrong action. It's one thing. It's justice is one thing. If someone does the wrong thing, they should go to jail. If people harm the masses of people, I'm all for the Nuremberg Code and things like that. I'm not saying we'd let people get away with things, but I'm saying we must try and break the cycle. So by using integrity and laws where we can. Because I've got a point in here. A farmer doesn't tell everyone he's a farmer or tries to prove to anyone that he knows how to farm or the ins and outs of farming. He just farms. So obviously that means you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. But it's normal and it's almost necessary in some ways when you're on the spiritual journey and you have insights and understandings. You want to, I just discovered this, and that's exciting. And I think it's really hard to, when you gain insight or you discover something about yourself, therefore others, it's very hard to remain aloof. And I'm not saying you should do that. All I'm pointing out is that ultimately we don't need to prove ourselves to anyone but ourselves. And ultimately, as you unravel your mind and become aware, you don't need to prove it to yourself, because you begin to know it. You realize it, self-realization. You realize it. Yeah, I definitely would recommend, though, in the process, when you have insight or something breaks away or discover something about yourself or others, obviously if it's about others, it directly reflects with you. So the true understanding must come from within you first. By all means, share that. That will not only maintain but create more momentum in the right areas of spirituality and unraveling. So definitely share, I feel, with your friends. And I remember when I've been on the spiritual journey for many years, I'd discover something, so then I'd try and tell everyone that discovery. And then I realized I was also trying to go deeper and try and prove it more deeply to myself. And also I wanted support in validation for that particular idea. And that's sort of normal in a way. I think everyone does that. But ultimately, you must let go of all that. And to me, that's probably one of the last things you let go of. Yeah, it can definitely generate more momentum because you're happy and excited that you've discovered something. And it's normal that you want to share that with people that you care about, because there's a sense of, this set me free. I feel empowered, feel great, and I want you to feel the same thing. And people will ride that wave for a period of it that's from the splash you've made and that insight you've had. They might ride that, but then when you're off doing your thing, they'll fall back to the same place. But at least you may have planted some seeds for others to keep going. So there's two aspects. Definitely share your discoveries and understandings with others to motivate them and yourself. But end of the day, you don't need to prove anything. But in my experience, as you unravel yourself and discover and get more access, then you naturally want to share it more and more and uplift and share some of the burden or take the burden off others through offering insight and understanding. And I feel that's natural, this journey. So, yeah, I wouldn't get too caught in the mind stuff of, don't seek approval, don't do this, don't do that. It's fun to share what you learn and discover as you go deeper and deeper. So I would definitely encourage that. And this is the whole thing with the book. There, you can expand and unravel. Like I could have written a far thicker book. There's just under 26,000 words in my book. I could have written way more, but I wanted to simplify and point to a certain direction, and I didn't want it to be difficult. And demanding read. There's a lot in there, and within that 2 to 2.5 pages, there's a lot of seeds. So we've spoken for quite a while on a very small chapter because I didn't want to go too deep into silence because it's a deep concept. But it sets the scene for the book and to assess and question your thoughts, because it's all about seeing through. So yeah, that's a lot. So that as you and listeners can get a sense, there's a lot to be taken from small aspects. There's many things that can be expanded on, and as you question your thoughts and deepen your understanding, you can read something and then reread it, and you'll go, oh, actually, there's something more there. And the book in itself it gives you some direct examples of certain aspects, seeing through the mind, but it's designed, it's written to encourage one to reflect and question the meaning of certain aspects, and it gives examples and that sort of thing. So it's not like a spirituality for dummies or anything like that. It's a book that's the whole essence of reading the book is reading it in a reflective manner, in a sense. That way you open to possibilities, and then you see what connects and resonates within you as you read, because there'll be certain things you go, oh, and you'll take what resonates at the time. And that's been the feedback that I've been given. So yeah, for anyone that reads the book, definitely by all means, give a shout out and write a testimonial if you so desire. We'll much appreciate it. I've had a few people reach out to me here and there, private message or so, just to give some feedback or insight or something. And if anyone's having trouble, I'm not a psych. I do things through, I offer understandings, insights and understandings through my own experience. I've been through a lot, like many of us have in life. If you're not sure what questions to ask or how to see through certain aspects, I can potentially offer questions that you may not have thought about. And as I'm not a psych, I realize I've been reflecting the last few days that my mind's been in this direction for many, many years, from definitely at least my 20s. I was very philosophical, and I liked the workings of the mind at times and didn't like it at others. But it's these questions that are right under our nose that everyone misses. This is the part that I love. This is my passion. And I can't cure anyone. You can unravel and discover and potentially cure yourself by seeing through your thoughts and discovering things. I'm not saying, oh, you'll live forever or anything like that, but our thoughts impact our body, our energy body, and our gut and everything. So as we gain control, we gain more control of ourselves, we become more efficient. So I truly feel, and in my experience, asking the right questions can set yourself free on different levels. And that's what I encourage. And as you set yourself free, as I said, the momentum carries on, and then you just want more and more and more, because you start chasing, becoming hungry for that freedom. For me, it's the only way to be. So thanks for listening in. Is that all, Linda? Anything?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So thanks for listening in. That was chapter 1 of my book. Stay tuned for chapter 2. Thanks again. Bye-bye.